What's up,
Well,
boys?
welcome, guys. We are here for another episode of BGO Blind Pig. I'm subbing in tonight because our buddy Primus Porcus is at the beach somewhere in an undisclosed location, but he is with us tonight. We're glad you're with us. If you haven't been here before, be aware that this is the official podcast of BGObsession.com, which we refer to the mothership. It's a Washington Post forum, been around since 2009, probably the longest running forum out there for former Redskins, current Commanders fans. But anyway, if we do have a YouTube channel, you can check the pod out. If you're watching it, you obviously may have found our YouTube channel. We're also on all major audio podcast providers. Just search BGO Blind Pig, and you will find us there. We're having a pretty exciting podcast this week. Probably not going to break any news, but the draft obviously was held. I only caught the first round Thursday night. I had a busy weekend, so I wasn't able to look at it all live, but I kept track of it on the board on the mothership. Right, what were you guys' general take from the six guys that we drafted? How'd you feel about that?
The first pick, I think that we all would have had a favorite. I don't think the favorite was there, but I think we came away with it in the draft with somebody that we can all get behind. There were concerns with Styles, and we've all hashed it on the board. There's like 260 pages of the debate in the round one pick. So I'm not breaking any news there. But this guy has the athletic ability to be somebody different. I was excited when we picked him because there were other guys that we have talked about that were gone. Love went 3 to the Cardinals. And I think all of us would have been extremely excited with Love. But this guy could be a stalwart in our defense for the next 10 to 12 years. And that's kind of what you want to get when you're talking about top 10 picks. You want a guy that changes the dynamic of whatever position group and or side of the ball he's on. And Styles can do that. And now it's just going to come down to, where he goes from here. And I'm excited for what he can do physically. Let's see what happens when he gets into the defense.
Yeah. Similarly, I watched the first round, and the other rounds I just would catch here and there on TV, but then kept track. The way the draft fell, I was excited for Styles too. Mainly now we're gone are the days of like David Mayo, and now we finally have speed at linebacker with him and with Chanel and Luvu. And then even the backups like McGee, we finally have speed at linebacker, which we've been missing, and you need in today's NFL. And then, from all regards, his father played, and he's like a film room junkie kind of dude too. So looking forward to seeing what he can add to our defense.
I was, it's really weird. Derek mentioned Love. I was not on the Love train to start with. I've said all along I wanted a defensive stud. That I wanted Jayden Daniels for the defensive side of the ball. And a couple of guys on the board, K-Dog and a few others, talked me around to wanting Jeremiah Rex to pair with Jayden Daniels in the backfield. And then he went 3 to the Cardinals, and all I could think was, that poor guy's going to be a waste out there in the desert. I mean, he's going to be a frustrated camper this next year. And then Sonny Styles fell to us, and I came all the way back around to where I was 4 months ago when I wanted a stud defender, and all I could think about was Mark, and the years that he stumped for a stud linebacker, and finally we're taking a guy, and the more I watch Styles, the more impressed I get. I mean, I'm pretty sure this dude can line up at free safety if we want him to line up at free safety and bring in a somebody else into the linebacking. it's a little crazy everything I think he can probably do. Antonio Williams was a little bit of a surprise, although the more tape I watch of the kid, the more I like him. And I know that a lot of the board's not high on Burks, but one of the things I like about having Williams and Burks is that both of them have played inside and outside wide receiver. So if you've got a 3 wide receiver set and you got the 3 of them on there, nobody knows who's lining up where until you actually get to the line of scrimmage.
Let's talk about all these guys, man. We got time. We got 6 guys to talk about. We got time to talk about each one of them. I think Styles. It wasn't what I really didn't think Styles was going to be the guy that was there. I felt like Love. There was no chance in hell he was going to be there. I think that was just a lot of fan masturbation going on, that he wasn't going to be there. But then when the wide receiver got taken, I think that's what kind of threw things. That made it really interesting. At that point.
Tate went surgery early.
Oh yeah, the Titans picked him up early and then threw everything.
Well, I think that was a little bit unexpected. But to me, Sonny Styles, that is a guy that I haven't heard anyone really say, why the hell would we take Sonny Styles? I mean, he's definitely, he's a big guy, 6'5", 244, runs a 4.46 40. And you mentioned Bob, he's a former safety, played a year of college football at safety.
Yep.
And then switched over to linebacker. And he's just, the guy had the green dot on in 2025, and he's just instinctive, and he's got that ability to go sideline to sideline. So I'm really excited about that. I would have been excited if it had been Caleb Downs. I think Dallas got some pretty good players in the draft.
Downs was on the board too. I don't think that we should gloss over that. Like, he was available.
Yeah.
So the conversation instantly has to go back to, like, did we make the right choice? And I'm not trying to be negative, but it is a real conversation that actually be had, because Tate and Tyson were gone before we got there, and then Adam Peters went to bluff of all bluffs to get somebody to trade up in front of him and take Mansour Delane. That was kind of crazy that they would trade up ahead of us and take Delane, and then kind of leave our guy on the board. You know what I mean? Like, we were connected to that guy for a while.
I think that was a ninja move. I think Adam Peters pulled the ninja move on that one.
He did.
Yeah.
That's what I would say, Derek, is, to me, a green dot guy that's as athletic as Styles is in the middle of the defense versus a safety. I think it's harder for a safety to have as much of an impact, but that's just my personal opinion. So I think Styles is going to – I would have been happy with either of those guys. But anyway, I don't think there's a lot of controversy out there about who we went with.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Just for giggles, because we got to talking about the free safety thing, I just went and looked up Sean Taylor. Sonny Styles is 3 inches taller, almost 10 pounds heavier, and ran a faster 40 time than Sean Taylor did. Taylor was a 4.51. Styles is a 4.46. He has a bigger vertical leap. Not to mention the fact that he's got a bigger wingspan because he's 3 inches taller. I mean, it's just a little. The dude is kind of a freak. Actually, not kind of. He is a freak.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I think the most exciting thing about him is not only is he hardly missed a tackle in 2025. He's a very good tackler, and being that former defensive back, he's got coverage skills. Have a linebacker is that physical, that can stop that's a good tackler and also is good in coverage. I don't know when the last time we had that. It was probably back in the Gibbs time frame since we had somebody like that. So anyway, we talked about
the concern with him and what was talked about pre-draft. He's not a thumper. He is not a hammer.
Yeah.
He's not coming downhill and putting people on their ass. He gives ground when he's making his tackles. He makes all the tackle, but he gives ground when he's doing it. And that was something that was talked about on the board, and that was something that was recognized on the board. when you're evaluating the seventh pick in the draft, that has to be a part of the conversation. So
I mean,
I'm
that's
not.
fine, but I haven't heard anyone use the word concern until you said it just a minute ago. I mean, I just think that's too strong of a word. It might not be his biggest strength that he's doing highlight reel tackles, but I mean, the guy, I don't know. I don't have that concern.
Well, there's a lot of people having like pointing him out, like comparing him to Bobby Wagner and Fred Warner and London Fletcher. He's not that guy. He's never going to be that guy because he's not going to plant somebody on their ass. Well, I shouldn't say. He has not done that yet. And it very well may be a part of his development and as he becomes a linebacker in the NFL, where he gets that downhill because he's got the body type to do it. He has the physical strength to do it, and he has everything you could want a guy to do it in the middle, where he could crash a line, and he literally weighs like 6 pounds less than Derrick Henry. And that guy is like a defensive end playing running back.
The good news is he's 97th percentile on his 40 time. So while those other guys are trying to get to the player to put
he's going to be there
on him, he'll be there.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know.
Yes,
I mean, I think
absolutely.
I would love to go back and look at Bobby Wagner's post-draft assessment and London Fletcher, because someone was probably talking about they're not big enough. They're not. I mean, that's just the way it is. But we'll see. I mean, it's a valid point.
Well, and he is big enough. He's fast enough. He's strong enough. He's got everything enough. So we'll see how that works out. And I'm kind of excited about it. So, third round pick, Antonio Williams, wide receiver, Clemson.
Yeah, so 5'11", 195 pounds. Kind of the draft profile on him is he's not the fastest guy out there, but he separates really well. He's kind of got quick twitch type moves. Probably has a really good second gear. Probably going to be more of a an over the middle guy, a guy in the slot than on the outside. Although he probably could play the Z, but he's probably better suited for a slot receiver, and very good route runner. That's the other thing I've heard over and over again. He has had some injuries, but he's been very productive at Clemson all 4 seasons. Especially not 2025 because he got hurt a little bit. 2024 he had a really good season, and he just appears to be very aggressive. Will go out and take the ball away. Pretty good deep route runner. So I think, I mean, to me he's like day one, a starter probably. Just given the fact that who's going to challenge him to be a starter. I don't know that we have a lot of competition there, but what have you guys heard about Antonio Williams?
Yeah, kind of a lot of the things you said. I just heard it like he scored touchdowns anytime he got on the field, and I think he's, like you said, he'll get a lot of playing time right away, whether it's in the slot or on the outside. That I'm not so much concerned. These guys move around all the time, anyway. So a specific position I'm not too worried about, but playing at Clemson, produced at a high level, and I'm just excited to see him get out there. And like you touched on, there's not intense competition, so he'll definitely have a shot to earn a starting role, or at least a lot of playing time.
The things I've heard about him are very encouraging. Adjectives like professional. Like he's already a pro, right? He approached the game in college like a pro approaches the game, is what some of his coaches mentioned. That last year at Clemson, who was I listening to? I was listening to somebody's podcast today. Oh, and they had Scott Turner on, former offensive coordinator here, and he said, look, go look at the tape from that year. This kid's running open all the time. They just aren't finding him. It's his numbers dropped, but it wasn't his fault. They had some bad quarterback play. They had potentially some bad, offensive coordinator calling. and they just didn't find him with the football, even though that he was running in acres of space. So he obviously could have put up better numbers his senior year than he did, with just a little bit of help from his teammates. And apparently, in interviews, he didn't throw his teammates under the bus over it either. So seems like a character kind of a kid, which is, at this point, you got to say is something of a hallmark of a Peters Quinn draft, right? We've got 3 years now, and while we may question some of the picks from a talent standpoint, I don't think you can question any of the picks from a character standpoint for the most part. These kids are pretty good kids, pretty good teammates. If you go back and look at the tape from 2024, he played a lot more outside. Everybody keeps talking about all the slot that he played as a senior. But as a junior, he played on the outside most of the time. So he's done a little bit of everything, which I think is great. And I fully expect to see this kid get a lot of playing time early in the season. One of the knocks you hear about wide receivers coming into the league is a lot of these kids have gotten by on athletic talent alone, and they haven't really learned to play the position. They're not great route runners. This guy's apparently a smooth, polished route runner already, compared to even to some guys playing in the pro league. So positive things.
I think
And
another
that's kind
thing.
of where.
Go ahead, Derek.
So that's kind of where he made his hay. It was route running. It was leverage. It was beating the guy. It was not the physical attribute, which goes kind of against the what everybody wanted to believe with Peters and company coming into this draft with the RAS score. This guy is just he's just polished. I don't know that they drafted him to be an answer, right? We have some questions at wide receiver too. I think they drafted him because he could be a solution. And that guy's going to come in here and he's going to be a part of the offense the minute he gets in camp. I don't know that wide receiver 2 was available at 71. I like Elijah Surratt. I like a couple other guys, but this guy's going to walk in here and be something that we have missed in our offense, and that's the safe blanket for Jaden Daniels. And he can earn his keep in the hash marks within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage and break it. And kind of like Jamison Crowder did, or one of those guys. And I think he can earn a way very quickly into this offense. But he's going to have to prove it, and it's going to come quick. He's going to have every opportunity to do it, but it's going to have to put it up or shut up.
One thing that I liked about this draft class was, except for the final pick, which we'll get to in a few minutes, all these guys are from major programs: Ohio State, Clemson, Tennessee, Penn State. And these guys have been tested against some of the best competition in the country, so that's a good thing. The next guy that we drafted with a 147 pick is Joshua Jacobs. And I didn't know a lot about Joshua Jacobs, edge rusher from Tennessee. Did that pick surprise you guys?
It did me. I didn't know anything about him. Now, in all honesty, I kind of expected us to be looking center at this point. So I was a little surprised when we backtracked and went to the edge. But it's got tools, that's for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know a lot about him either, but in the 5th round, I guess you just kind of go by your board, and like Bob said, he's got all the tools, so just throw another young guy into the mix, maybe just be a pass rush specialist kind of dude as he gets his speed and grow. But and also, like you said, he played in the SEC, so he's just a high level competition.
He
there,
also, I heard some people kind of dissing the pick a little bit. I think probably because I think he's one of the high RAS score guys. So it's kind of like, oh, we picked him just because on ceiling, that he's hasn't done that much at Tennessee. Well, he played behind James Pierce Jr. for like most of his time at Tennessee. Well, that guy's a first round pick from the Falcons. So
exactly.
I mean, he was behind one of the best edge rushers in the country. So it's kind of hard to fault him for not doing as much as we would have liked. But I think he probably is one of those guys with probably the biggest question marks in the draft is how good is he really going to be and what's his ceiling. And I mean, I have no idea, but he's fast and he's big and he's got long arms. He's a good run defender. And he got better every year that he played at Tennessee from what I read. He definitely improved throughout his entire college time. So.
Well, he also graded out well above a 5th round pick. I think somebody shared on Twitter that we had the highest efficiency in picks if you're talking about like draft versus ranking.
Right.
And he was one of the ones that like anchored that. Like he was ranked in the mid 70s to 80s, and we took him more than double that,
like 147 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're asking him to come in here and be a guy that's going to set the edge and control line of scrimmage, but where he's graded as a pass rusher, he's going to be one of the better pass rushers in this draft opportunity because he has some of the skill set to push an end, push a tackle in control line of scrimmage. But where his struggle is setting the edge and controlling as a run defender. But I mean, when you're talking a guy that falls down into the 140s and he's rated as a 2nd round guy, I mean, you're taking that with the upside mentality of now we can find a guy who can come in here and be a contributor, and we're not expecting him to be a 3 down edge and be an all-pro, but he can do some things that we can't do right now. And if you look at the roster, we have one guy who's under contract beyond 2028, and it's Odafe Oweh.
Right.
Now we have 2, right? Like, it kind of makes sense if you can find a guy that has a low ceiling but a high floor, and how you can kind of keep him involved and keep him going in the right direction with the defense, where you're not invested in a point where you have to lose anything.
One of the things that I read about him is that perhaps, and there's always speculation about why some guys hang around longer than they're projected to hang around, right? What was wrong with him that none of us knew was wrong with him? And a lot of the speculation around this kid is that he spent a lot of time off field with Pierce, and Pierce had character issues when he came into the league. And so there's a concern that maybe there's been some rub off of the character issues, but there's absolutely nothing in his background to indicate that's the case. And one of the guys, somebody I saw said, this kid's got the arms that Bain wishes he had. Bain would have been the 2nd pick in the draft if he had this kid's arms. Because he's got like 34.5-inch arms or something, and apparently his whole game right now is getting that hand up into the offensive tackle and creating separation. And I saw somebody say that if a really good defensive line coach gets a hold of him and teaches this kid a solid bull rush and maybe to fight with his hands a little bit and a quick spin or a swim move to the inside, that he's going to have 3 tools, and suddenly he's going to be downright dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, he's also got some guys that know how to pass rush which we haven't had a lot of, that he can learn from. So, but anyway, I think you just have to trust Peters on that kind of a pick.
Also, let's keep in mind it's the 5th round. We're not expecting him to come in and start and go crazy. So
So Derek brought up the
Appropriate.
value aspect of it, which, and I think that's a good segue into our next pick at 187. They took Katron Allen, running back from Penn State, who that guy was projected. I saw him mocked a lot, is all the way up into the 4th round, and we got him in the 6th round. So I think a lot of this was a good draft for running backs all the way through, because there were a bunch of guys taken before him. But I think he's got a lot of talent. 5'10", 199 pounds. He ran a 4.5440, and I think the big selling point with him is he gets yards after contact. He's hard to bring down. In 2025, he averaged 6.2 yards per carry, 1,300 plus yards, 15 touchdowns, and he had a few catches. But a really good short yardage back from the clips I've seen of him. But what was your all's take on? Were you surprised we went to the well with a running back where we did?
Yeah, I'm going to go right back to what I said about the last pick. I was again shocked that we passed on a center at this point. I mean, I really thought that we'd be looking at the interior offensive line earlier, and then we went edge and then running back before we got around to the center. One thing that I heard amongst the critics, I don't know, commentators, I guess might be a better way to put it, is that if Blau does what we think he's going to do and run something of a Ben Johnson style, Detroit Lions style offense here, that this kid becomes the David Montgomery to Bill's poor man's Jahmyr Gibbs, right? You've got a little bit of that thunder and lightning. This kid doesn't run away from the world. He's not a threat to take it to the house from the half, from the 50-yard line, but he also isn't going to get dropped in the backfield very often, and he's going to wear defenses down. In the 4th quarter, nobody is going to want to see him coming, much like you see with David Montgomery, which I thought was kind of a fantastic comp there.
Yeah, everything I've heard, he's physical, and that's just the style he plays, and would be a good change of pace for us too. And I think he's got some records at Penn State as well, which says something. They're known for cranking out running backs, so he produced. He's a physical guy, hard to bring down. We'll add to the mix of our room because there's not really someone who has those specific traits on our team already. So looking forward to seeing what he can do.
The other thing to consider in the entire conversation is the only guy signed beyond this year is Krosky Barrett. So it makes kind of sense that you need to bring somebody in here who's going to be a long-term solution. This guy, I've seen him in multiple conversations with yardage and AVP and all of it with Jeremiah Love. I'm not going to sit here and say he is that guy, but he's a bruiser, and he doesn't go down on first contact. He doesn't go down on second contact. There's a lot of highlights and a lot of plays where this guy is wearing a linebacker out and just beating the shit out of him as he goes through him to get to the second level. So that's kind of what we need, right? Like, we have the scat back. We have the guy that can break any time he touches the ball, and he can go the distance. Now, let's take this guy, and he can take a safety and put him on his ass and hit a 40, 50-yard run. So we're also talking about the late in the 3rd day, right? So what you can get out of this guy is you're not investing something in this guy to be a difference maker in your franchise. He is coming in here to prove himself, and the investment is low. And if you strike gold with that, that's where you make your money. Just like we did with Krosky Barrett, like we've done with other guys late in the 3rd day. And you kind of have the benefit.
I give him this much. He's got the most running backish name of any running back we've ever. It's like Patron Allen. I mean, it sounds like a running back, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm kind of excited to see what he can do. And here, this one's for you, Bob. We
I know.
209. They finally do what Bob's been begging to do for the last 3 rounds. They draft a center, Matt Gulbin from Michigan State, and he's a big old bull, corn-fed boy, 6'4", 305. Don't ask me about his 40 time. He's not a svelte athlete. His RAS score is like they had to create a lower tier of the RAS score just to give him a RAS score.
When
He
you
is
play
not
center,
that
your
athletic
40
guy.
time doesn't mean shit.
But my thing is, I mean, he's a center. He doesn't need to be a super athlete. Yeah. Everything I've read, he's like a hog. A hog, if the hogs were still around, this guy fits that mold. He's like brute strength, stubbornness. I read that PFF had him as the second-ranked center overall, and he's the top-ranked run blocking center because you cannot move him. If he gets set, you are not moving him off of his pivot. He's gonna stay there, and I just think he's former team captain. I didn't realize he spent his whole undergraduate career at Wake Forest, and he played left guard at Wake Forest. I should know that; it's right down the road from me. But he played left guard. He was a starting left guard for Wake Forest, and then he wanted a challenge, so he did one more year at Michigan State. And I just moved to center, and then he excelled, and he gets drafted at the center. So to me, he's got he could get a lot better at center, with more than 1 year of experience playing that position. So I'm really excited about him.
I've seen several people comment that he should be able to or can play all 3 interior line positions. That's the kind of guy you want standing on the sideline a lot of Sundays. Kind of potentially frees up a slot for somebody else on your game day roster because the dude can back up multiple positions instead of just one. He was not on my radar, but you go look at his numbers. I mean, in 405 pass snaps at Michigan as a senior, in his first year as a center, he gave up 2 sacks and 5 pressures, and that was it. People just don't get around him, apparently. So I don't necessarily expect him to come in and give Allegretti a run for his money at center this year. But this could absolutely be a kid that develops into a starter next year, the year after, when Allegretti decides to hang it up. Because it's not like Nick is exactly a spring chicken.
Yeah, I mean, you can find interior linemen all through the draft, and late round guys started all the time. And kind of like John alluded to, in the Big Ten, the NFL still with guys from the Big Ten, centers and guards. It's kind of how it works out. And everything I've read and heard about, he's a big ornery, mean streak kind of dude. So yeah, it's exciting to see him come into the mix. And if he doesn't get a lot of playing time now, he can be kind of waiting in the wings to get his opportunity going forward. But great value at this stage of the draft.
I would be surprised if Allegretti's our center in 2027. I just have a feeling this kid's they're gonna move him in there relatively quickly, but that's just a gut feeling. Which, I mean, if that were to be the case, to get a starting center, like a long-term starting center in the 6th round, that's a pretty damn good pick if it works out. And he's also I mentioned that PFF rated him really high as a run blocker, but he's also pretty good in pass pro, as Bob was alluding to. He just doesn't get moved. It's like it makes it hard to rush the passer up the interior when you got a center that is that stout and is difficult to move around. So we'll see what happens. So I dreaded talking about our last pick because I would have to pronounce his name, but Ethan Kayakmanis is how it is pronounced, is my understanding. Kayakmanis, quarterback from Rutgers. That's probably the most controversial pick. I saw people losing their mind over that on the board and elsewhere. I just want to say that Mark and I, Ohm on BGO, we have said for years. Now, we said it a lot more when we didn't have Jaden Daniels, but we were like, if we were a GM, we would be drafting a quarterback in every single draft class because it's so hard to find one. You know, there are so many washouts, that we felt like that should almost be something you do every year. Now we have Jaden Daniels now, so maybe not so much, but I do think I'm not going to ever criticize them taking a quarterback, and I'm pretty sure that's what Mark would say if he was here. What were you guys' reaction to that when you found out we drafted a quarterback?
I'll be honest and tell you that while I absolutely agree with your, and I always have agreed with you and Mark on the concept of taking a quarterback every year, being a pick short this year, especially considering that we were short in the second and fourth round. Early on, I really kind of was a little surprised. I wasn't upset like a lot of fans have been, but I was a little surprised that we used that 7th round pick on a quarterback, especially a guy that may very well have been there as an undrafted free agent. Yep. There were still some name guys on the board at the position, specifically Nussmeier out of LSU was still there. So I was a little surprised that they did what they did, but this kid looks like he may, for a 7th round pick okay, let's face it. What are the odds of a quarterback outside round 1, maybe round 2, really sticking in the NFL for terribly long? It doesn't happen very often. The Tony Romos of the world are few and far between. The Tom Brady's of the world, for that matter, because he was a 6th pick, right? So you don't trip over those guys very often. And I'm not saying that this guy will be that guy, but he certainly looks like he's got the physical tools. You go look at the tape on him, and he's not just throwing with accuracy, he's throwing his receivers open and putting the ball in some fairly tight windows. Granted, he's not doing it against SEC or Big 12 competition when you're playing at Rutgers. But even so, he's putting the ball where it needs to be to get his guy open and keep the ball away from the defense. And he looks like he's probably it looks like he makes quick, solid decisions too. So maybe there's a little something there to work with. And I kind of stuck with something Logan Paulson said when I was listening to that podcast yesterday. He said, when you take this kind of a kid, you're hoping, he said, you're really hoping that maybe what you get is a kid that spends a couple of years on the practice squad and then turns into a 2-year backup for you on a dirt cheap contract that keeps you from having to spend $8, $10, $12 million on a Marcus Mariota type of a guy. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
What was your take on that pick, Derek?
Hartman wasn't the guy. We invested a lot in Hartman, including one of the bigger guaranteed contracts for an undrafted free agent. And he's gone now. I think you have to take all the flyers you want to take. Get 4 or 5 of these guys, and you know what I mean. As you stockpile them, and if you hit gold, you hit gold. I don't think the investment is anything to worry about. I don't think you have to. You're not going to look at a 7th round pick late in the draft and say what coulda, shoulda, woulda. So do it. I think we should draft a quarterback every single year, at least one.
Yeah,
because we've talked about this. I would take a quarterback every year because if you can find a way and you accident yourself into the future of your franchise, you do it. So stockpile it. Have one guy on your active, one guy inactive forever. And what's the worst thing that happens? You could shift him and flip him for a 6th or a 5th because he's capable. Now you've you've gained some draft capital that you didn't have before. So pick a guy that can be a quarterback for your team who has the skill set, who may be good enough to be a backup this late in the draft. And if he doesn't fit in your room, ship him off for a seventh or a sixth round pick later. But
Yeah,
do
I agree.
it's the most valuable position in sports.
I think one other thing I just wanted to throw in there, when people say like, well, he probably would have been available as an undrafted free agent. Okay, maybe the team knew that another team liked him and they were trying to get ahead of that. But the other thing is, look, if to say that, that's fine. But you could also say the other guys that they would pick if they didn't take
Right.
Minus there, they're probably or their equivalents are also going to be available as undrafted free agents. It's kind of about, to me, that this pick is about, let's get our dibs in on a guy that we really want as an undrafted free agent, because once you go into the undrafted conversation, then the players are going to decide where they go, not the teams. I mean, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
So I think people forget that. It's like the players are going to go where they feel like I have the best possible chance to catch on. They're not going to necessarily go there because you want them or whatever. So anyway.
And
exactly.
Hey, Derek, for the record, Hartman's still on the roster, man. He'll be in camp.
So I just wanted to run through Kayakmanis' stats. These are his career stats at Rutgers: 8,604 career passing yards. He threw for 55 touchdowns to 27 interceptions, so he doesn't make a ton of mistakes. You guys mentioned he's got a quick release. He throws a really pretty pass, and I would say he's got an above average arm as far as arm strength. I mean, I've seen some videos of him where he can really let the ball fly, and he throws a pretty, I guess they would call it a catchable ball, a pretty spiral. I don't know. Other than that, I don't know. There's probably a lot of quarterbacks in that 7th round range where they would have similar stats. So
one of the things, Paul,
same as everyone else, I was surprised, but not like, oh my gosh, it's the 7th round. Let's not overthink it here. And if they saw value in him, cool. And hopefully he can beat out Sam Hartman, because Sam Hartman sucks. I know he's Jaden's good friend, so they can cut him and create some flowery title like team culture consultant or whatever, and he can just he can pal around with Jaden, and then we can have a better developmental quarterback. He
can model Redskins swag on the store.
Yeah, or do that. Go give him
because he has great hair.
He has great hair.
Attractive man.
Yeah, I know this might seem a little harsh, but as the Denver Broncos found out a couple 7 or 8 years ago, one of the things you probably want in a quarterback who's on your roster is him being able to throw the ball. I don't know, call me crazy, but we've seen that right before, where if you can't throw the ball pretty hard and pretty accurately and pretty quickly, you're gonna have a hard time. And I think that's the thing with Hartman. I think Hartman's probably really, in his head, he's probably a great quarterback. He just doesn't have the arm, that NFL arm that we need. So I don't have any problem with that pick. As Derek said, you draft a quarterback every single year. I am fine with that, because you never know what's going to happen, and you never know when you're going to need one.
And the undrafted thing is a big deal, like you said, because once you get to the undrafted free agents, they have the choice. It's like you said, it's out of the team's hands more so when you hit the undrafted pool.
So I just want to circle back around to back up a little bit, 1,000 yards. How do you think we got how do we do in terms of team needs going into the draft? Do you feel like we met? I think there's one area where we didn't address in the draft, and that's probably defensive back. We didn't draft a corner, but that's really the only thing I can think of in terms of, not filling a team need. We did a pretty good job. Any comments on that?
I feel like the thought process with this organization at the moment is focus on getting pressure. And if you get pressure on the defensive side, you don't have to have quite as good a secondary play as maybe you would if you're not getting that pressure. You know, you don't expose those guys as much if the quarterback's got less time. My biggest concern with the secondary isn't so much the starters. It's what happens if we have to dig into what happens if the fourth guy has to suit up or the fifth guy has to suit up, like we saw last year with the cornerback group, right? I mean, we got pretty deep in the cornerback room. And we ended up starting guys that started the season walking the street. By the end of the season, we were starting free agents that we signed in the middle of the season because we were, you know, everybody was walking wounded or just flat not walking at all. So I see your point, but you know, when you only have 6 picks and you only have 2 in the first 4 rounds, I think they probably did about as good a job as they could do addressing the needs of this team. I love that first pick. Honestly, I really love Sonny Styles. The reality is I walked away from Thursday night last week thinking if we don't draft anybody else the rest of this draft, it was a successful draft. Because we got a kid that can run this defense. He has the smarts to run the defense and the physical tools to be a monster. And just play right there in the middle for the next 10 years and be the counter to Jaden Daniels on the offense. I am so thrilled with that pick. I can't see straight.
Well, our new DC cannot bitch about what the team has done since he got hired, because you could make the argument about 80% of our focus has been on the defense.
Yeah,
and I guess I heard Al Galdi make this point a couple of weeks ago that, you know, because we've been bitching a lot about where's the wide receiver, we need a better running backs, all of that stuff. You know, we're not giving Jaden the weapons like other teams have done, like New England has done for their new quarterback. But Galdi made the point that if you don't have to score 35 points every game to win, that helps Jaden Daniels quite a bit. So I do think we'll see. We don't know how it's all going to pan out, but we've definitely done a lot to boost and beef up the defensive talent, and that continued on into the draft. So
I think something that a lot of people are not talking about is we drafted Trey Amos in the 2nd round last year.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was coming into his own before he got hurt. Like, this guy was largely believed to be a number 1 defensive back. He's not just a rotational guy. Like, they were looking at him as being the guy, and he made some plays. And then when you look at that, and then you sign Robinson, and you have Sandra Steele, who, say what you want about being a 3rd round pick, that guy he's been legit for a while. And he had been flexible too. He played inside, he played outside. And if you can generate some sort of pass rush, just an element of pressure, that changes what you ask your cornerbacks to do and your safeties. And the entirety of your defensive scheme morphs. As we're saying, you don't have to be the best of the best. All I need you is to be good for 2 seconds. Because after 2 seconds, my guy's going to be in that quarterback's face, and it's going to change the entire dynamic of the defense. We're not there yet, but there has been a massive investment as pass rush goes to change. Like, if maybe we missed out on cornerback, but I don't think they're prioritizing cornerback because they don't want to put it on the cornerback. They want the D-line to dictate what's going to happen when we're on the other side of the ball, and the defensive backs are just going to be there to kind of play the back end and just reap the rewards.
Yeah, the moves they've made show that they want to throw waves of guys and have depth on the line so they can get consistent pressure throughout the whole game. And what I have never seen here was we have speed at linebacker. We got fast backers for the first time I can remember. All that together should help with the secondary. And with Jaden too, I think one thing we got to remember is healthy Jaden raises everyone else on the offense, because his rookie year was Jaden, Terry, Ertz, and then just a bunch of dudes.
Yep.
And the offense was humming. So if Jaden's healthy, it kind of raises the overall talent of the offense regardless. And if we finally have a defense that can give him the ball more, that can only help.
Yeah, good stuff, guys. So I'm going to put you on the spot on our way as we close out the discussion tonight. Put you on the spot a little bit. Give us a grade. Give us your grade on the overall draft for Adam Peters. What do you guys think? What do you got, Bob?
You know, I'm gonna I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna say an A, because one of those draft picks that we're missing, I forget if it's the second.
Oh,
Well, we got the A from Bob. We'll see if
Yeah.
he comes back here in a minute. How about you,
It
Derek?
doesn't hurt at
How
all,
would you
right?
rate?
You know, so,
Oh, he's back.
he's back.
oh, I was just gonna say I'm cheating a little with the grade, because I'm thinking about the draft picks that we traded away. One of those draft picks was part of the Laramie Tunsil deal, and Tunsil's going to be the starting left tackle here for the next couple of years at the very least, and he's still playing top 2, top 3 in the league in terms of level. So you throw Stunny Styles in there, trading a pick for Tunsil. Williams looks good. I'm not unhappy with the edge rusher or the running back or the center. I think this is a solid A. I mean, at this point in time.
Okay. How about you, Derek?
I'm gonna go B, and I only say B because there's room for improvement, but I'm happy with it. Like a B is not a failing grade. I'm not gonna look at a B with somebody that, like, you deserve to lose your job, but it could have quote unquote been better. I'm happy with what we got. I have my own concerns about Styles. I think Williams is good. As we entered the draft, Surratt was my guy, and he was still on the board. He's a little bigger, a little stronger. I think he can be more of a dynamic outside guy. But if Williams gives you 65 to 70 catches for 800 yards and 5 touchdowns, that's a win. There's a very easy path to that grade going from a B to an A. But there was some meat on that bone that I don't know. Maybe I would have gone a different direction, and it's time for Peters to be smarter than me. Because God, I hope he is.
All right. What do you got, Tony?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the A too, just because the way the draft fell, I was pretty hyped for Styles. As they're if you're in the top 10, you got to get an impact player, and I'm optimistic that he will be. And then all the other players, like we've talked about, were predicted to go earlier than when we picked them.
Mhm.
So based on that, because it's so early, you don't really know. But just based on the information I have now, that's why I'll go with the A, especially given that we didn't have like a full stockpile of picks too.
Okay. Well, with the caveat that draft grades are for the foolish, and people are
Yeah, exactly.
looking to get abused a couple years from now, because we just don't know. Nobody knows. However, I'll probably give us a B plus. I'm not sure about it's not that I'm not sure about Joshua Jacobs, because I don't know if Joshua Jacobs is going to be high ceiling guy I mentioned myself that he was that he was playing behind a first round pick, so probably didn't get as many chances to prove himself as he might have at Tennessee. But I don't feel like I'm a more of a need kind of a guy in the draft, so I hate to admit that, but I felt like we probably could have like grabbed a running back or a wide receiver. I would have been fine with a second wide receiver, to be honest with you. But anyway, I won't beat that drum any more than I have already. But that's the only pick. And the quarterback, I don't really have a problem with, just based on where he was drafted. But that's probably the only one I kind of went like, really? Is that really what we needed there? But anyway, I reserve judgment on that. So I would go with a B+, maybe an A-, somewhere, something like that. So I thought they did a really good job. And it's got to be a bitch to be a GM in an NFL draft, because nothing that you think is going to happen other than the first pick, you really don't know. And you have to be prepared for anything. And 8 minutes or whatever it was, I don't even know what the time limit was for later rounds, but it's not as much time as it sounds like. You got a lot to consider in a short amount of time. So I imagine it's pretty easy to screw it up if you're not very careful. So I felt like they made solid picks all the way through. And like you said, the value part of it, that can't be disputed. We definitely drafted a bunch of guys much later than they were expected to go. So if we turn out to be wrong on any of those picks, we're not the only ones that would have been wrong. So I feel good about that. Well, guys, I'm still looking for my brand new black Washington Commanders logo hat. Apparently is unobtainable unless you go out to eBay and buy some ripoff version. So I'll be looking for that new hat. As soon as it's available. If there are any Commander staff listening or front office people, get some more damn hats. We want to buy them, and we can't if they're not available. But anyway, guys, if you're seeing us for the first time, I'm so sorry for our personal appearance, but you can catch us on YouTube, but you don't have to see our ugly mugs. You can also go out to Spotify or Apple Podcast or pretty much any podcast provider out there, and we're available there as well. Most importantly, come visit us at the mothership, bgobsession.com. Been around since 2009. The best fan forum community.
Hey, we don't suck. I'm just saying that. We don't suck.
we would love to have you. It's a very friendly group. Yeah. Come on. And we're getting ready to enter kind of the slow part of the NFL season, but it's a good time to join, get to know everybody, and get your feet wet. So come visit us at BGO. With that being said, guys, the pigs are out.